welcome back to another episode of Film Stop. We've been out for a really long hiatus. I say hiatus, but it was really just laziness. But we've been out, and however long it's taken, we're back here now. And I say we because we're gonna change the format up slightly, or structure up slightly. It's now going to almost always have two hosts, myself and my now wife, Meghna. So hi, Meghna. You want to say hi?
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
As you can hear,
It's
she's very excited.
yeah. It's been the second time that I'm here, and yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, direct promotion. Um, so I guess that kind of segues into a couple of life updates from our end. But before we get into that, I want to introduce our guest for the episode today. Hey, Pat.
Hey Suraj, hey Magna, hey listeners. What's going on today?
Oh, well, Sunday ending, week beginning. I'm kind of hating my life right now, but I'm looking forward to this episode.
It's gonna be a great time.
It's gonna be great.
Yes.
Also, our sandwiches that we've ordered, they're about on our way. On their way. But okay, so Pat, I guess there's been life updates at your end too. For those who are joining us and have heard our episodes before, and especially the ones with you in it, can you give us a quick update on some major life events at your end?
Yeah, so me and my wife, we've actually moved to Japan and we're living in downtown Tokyo right now.
That
Just kidding.
sounds amazing.
Yes, this past June we welcomed our first baby into the world, little PJ, Patrick Jr., born June 12th, and we've just been hanging out with him a lot, and it's been entirely wonderful. So he just went down for the night. He's asleep now. Hopefully we don't wake him up with our intriguing conversations about Malignant.
I hope he has good things to talk about. Malignant, I'm sure.
Well, we don't necessarily have good things to talk about for
I was talking
Malignant,
about
but
PJ.
oh, okay, PJ would, yeah.
PJ did witness a couple of minutes of the movie,
Oh.
so
Ah.
I am curious to see what he thinks.
When he finds his words, I can't wait to listen to him.
Yep.
So that's awesome, and congratulations from the 10 listeners that we have. You, Pat.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
From our end, there's a couple of updates too. Actually, Meghna, do you want to give the life updates?
Sure. So yeah, we did get married, and we moved into a new home a couple of months ago. Uh, our dog had a surgery and he's been doing great now. He's back to his usual self, and that's about it. We're enjoying the summers, and it's been great so far.
Yeah, and you could probably hear him walk around right now. He's right next to the mic. Can you hear him, Pat?
No, I can't hear Flux. How's he doing, by the way? How's he recovering?
Not bad. He's back to his stupid self. He's like neurologically back to his stupid self. He still has like a stiff hind leg, but yeah, well,
He's a strong boy.
he's a strong guy. Yeah. We're back to rehab. And for those who don't know, there is like dog rehab where it's not really drugs related, it's just physiotherapy related. But yeah, we're back to that. No.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So hey, I mean, there's a lot to catch up, right? We haven't had an episode drop in way over a year. So many things happening: chaos, life, laziness. But I thought we can just start talking a little bit about 2021 in general. 2020 was a little bit of a doozer as a year in general, but yeah, it affected movies, of course. Quality of movies was a little on the shorter end, and basically all the good movies were pushed out to 2021, and we're still waiting for good content to come out across the board. There's been good shows, but why don't you, Pat? Why don't you get us started on what you think were your top, let's say a couple of picks, top 2 or 3 picks for 2021 so far in terms of movies that you've watched.
Sure. Yeah. So I was kind of putting a list together in preparation for our conversation today, and I realized I've almost solely watched action movies here in 2021. I don't know if that says one thing or another about myself or about what's been going on in my life, but it's certainly been a lot of action movies. And so if I'm just trying to limit things, right off the bat, I would say Nobody with Bob
Oh
Odenkirk.
yeah,
That
good pick.
definitely one of the most underrated or underappreciated maybe action movies, um, and really love that one. Boss Level was one on Hulu. I'm always a big fan of that Groundhog Day kind of concept, and I think they did a really nice job turning Groundhog Day into an action movie,
I
which
haven't
was
watched
really
that
sweet.
one yet, but I remember you mentioning that. I do want to check it out.
And then a little bit more on the funny side, Mitchell's versus the Machines, the animated movie. Really loved it. Thought it was really well done. Robots taking over the world. I can't really beat that concept. And then one that kind of, I don't know, for some reason it stuck in my head. I wouldn't necessarily say it was really good per se, but the idea of it really stuck with me. And that was the movie Awake. I don't know if you saw that. I think it was a Netflix only release
I don't know
where
why that.
all of a sudden no one could fall asleep anymore.
Oh, I haven't
Oh,
watched
Um,
it. Did
we've
you?
been told about
Have
that.
you been told about that? Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't watched it.
really strange concept. I believe I was watching it like the night that my son was born.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
I was kind of preparing myself to stay up each and every night. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of whole concept and idea has really been kind of going back and forth inside my head. I don't want to spoil it for you. There is a
Mm,
way to fall asleep, but
mm.
I don't wanna ruin
Mhm.
it for anyone else.
Is it pills?
Yes, it's
Okay.
elves. Yep.
I
Yep.
thought pills. No pills.
Nope,
Mm.
nope. Pills don't do it. Sure.
Okay.
But you can say that movie has kind of affected your life since
Yeah.
PJ has come in.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a metaphor of my life as opposed to, maybe that's why it's stuck inside me.
Wait. So, how have movies become more important, relevant now in your life?
Yeah. So over the summer, my wife Claire and I, we had kind of we had an arrangement going on where she would kind of take care of PJ maybe from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I
Mm,
would take the overnight shift, and then we would kind of share the late lunch slash early evening hours. So I would be staying up all night, probably from going to bed at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., something like that. So I would just kind of find whatever it was on Netflix, on Hulu, on Prime in order to
mm,
stay awake. So maybe that's kind of the reason for the action movies, kind of keep me intrigued, keep me energized through the night and
yeah.
through those early hours. Tomorrow War, that's another one with Chris Pratt. I thought that would at least was really entertaining. Army
That
of the
one was
Dead.
interesting. Tomorrow War was interesting. I mean, it kind of felt like a big budget movie made for the TV. I mean, that's what it was. But it actually even kind of played out like that. I don't know how to explain it better than that. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. The last act of the Tomorrow War, I think, was completely opposite of the rest of the movie, which really kind of surprised me. I feel like Army of the Dead, the zombie movie in Vegas, I thought that was really well done, and again, kind of kept my interest. Stowaway. If you ever believe that Anna Kendrick could be an astronaut, Stowaway, I guess, would be the movie for you. Um, Again, just kind of like crazy way out there action slash thriller movies. So
Yeah.
it's been some fun evenings, needless to say.
Awesome.
How about
Awesome.
you? How about yourself?
Yeah, I have a couple in there too. I think, a lot of my preference for movies in the theaters or good movies has kind of shifted because I've been so starved for watching movies in the theaters. Like Kong versus Godzilla to me was amazing.
Yeah, I like that too.
It was. I mean, as far as blockbusters are concerned, it's pretty mediocre. But it was still a very it was still a very fun watch because it was the movie that I was going back into theaters with after months and months of not going. Before that, it was Tenet last year. But yeah, I think there's been a couple, right? So I would say Kong versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Kong, whatever the name is. I really enjoyed Mortal Kombat too. You will probably be judging everyone else on this podcast listening to us might be judging us, but me at least. But also Wrath of Man. That was the Guy Ritchie movie that came out this year. That was fun. Cruella was fun. I really enjoyed Quiet Place 2. I thought that it was a great sequel. It kind of it built upon what the first one said and it added to it, which is great. It didn't just repeat itself. And that's another horror movie that's really good, and I'm sure we'll get into horror a little bit more. But I really enjoyed Night House as well, which we recently watched. I really liked Free Guy as well. It was really funny, and out there. It's
Free
really
Guy was good.
yeah, it's Reynolds pretty much all the way, um, but yeah, I'd pay to watch Ryan Reynolds. And then I'd say my favorite of the year, which is in our friend circle quite controversial, is The Green Knight. I genuinely, the more I've thought about it, the more I've sort of consumed content around it. I've just kind of fallen in love with it, and I definitely want to watch it again before the Academy Awards, assuming that it gets some nominations. But yeah, that's my list. Megna's already kind of like judging me with her eyes because she loves The Green Knight, don't you, Megna?
We should
Yeah, of
maybe have a
course.
podcast about that as well.
Yeah.
With Claire and me and you.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Without
Yeah, I've only heard things about Green Knight kind of secondhand. I was on baby duty that evening, so I missed that whole adventure. So, unfortunately, I have nothing to contribute to that conversation.
I don't think you would like it either. Not to kind of like make it like judge a movie for you, but I don't think you would like it either. But
Also, just a little side note, I believe you went from like Godzilla vs. King Kong, and then you threw Cruella in there, and then you moved on to another giant blockbuster. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of you giving 2 thumbs up to Cruella, buried in the lead of the other action blockbusters.
I thought Cruella was a great watch, mainly because it had great music and like that. Just sitting in the theater and listening to all those tracks one after the other was great. And I had
also
a good
like
time.
the take on the movie, like how they, it was a different take on the character,
Yeah.
which was good. I think I like that.
So, what are your top favorites for the year?
Adding to what you said, I did like Cruella, as I said. I like Candyman, wasn't that bad. I like the lore and how they portrayed issues in the society and all that. I like that. Quiet Place was indeed good. Free Guy was great. We just saw it and it was nice. I think it was good.
Yeah.
What else?
Did you like Night House? Like, would you say it's one of your picks for the year, or it was good but not great?
No,
Okay.
I would. Yeah, not one of my picks. But yeah.
Yeah, we watched Saint Maud as well. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Then we watched. I think you didn't watch In the Earth, but yeah, I watched In the Earth. That was
yeah.
another horror movie of the year, from the year. But in terms of horror movies, like what do you guys think? What do you think, Magna? Like, how has the horror movie landscape sort of shifted, evolved, or remained stagnant, or whatever, or degraded?
I think I am not the right person to answer that because I'm not a big fan of horror movies, and the only times I watch horror movies is when I am really made to watch them. But I'm not a big fan of horror movies. But so yeah.
What about you, Pat? What are
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a fairly big fan of the horror genre, at least. I'm not one who kind of seeks out horror movies or has the subscription to the horror movie only. I can't think of what the name of that is. What is that called?
Was it slasher? No, is it?
No,
It's
I don't know. That'll come to me.
It's like a genre.
But I feel like
yeah.
it's a very generic horror movie streaming service. But I feel like every horror movie has to have some sort of like grip or shutter. That's what it's called. Every horror movie has to have its own like thing or little like niche or something like that. That's what that horror movie is going to be all about. So whether it's about I don't know, like demons, or it's about aliens, or it's about God, or it's about just some random killer out on the loose. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're gonna try to like push that. They're gonna try to take that to the next level, and that's where I kind of feel like the horror genre has kind of remained stagnant. Is
Mm.
that everyone kind of pushing it to the next level? They're just not really doing it for me. And then any like quote unquote like good horror movie nowadays, I don't you could probably classify it as a different type of movie. So I'm just kind of going through a list here of the 2021 horror movies. And one of the really good ones that I watched a couple of months ago was False Positive with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, I
I
haven't
don't know
watched
if
that
you
one.
guys saw that one. So it's under the horror genre, but it's about like a man and a wife, or not. They have to go to a doctor in order to have a baby, in vitro fertilization. And then it turns out that the doctor was up to some shenanigans when he did the IFV, so or IVF,
Mm.
IVF. So again, I don't know if I'd really call that a horror movie or what. But then it's right next to some movie called The Unholy, so about what I would assume be some sort of demon
Oh,
priest combination or something like that.
yeah, I haven't
Um,
watched that one, but I've
and then you have kind
yeah.
of that recurring theme of like the Purge movies keep coming out.
Why?
Yeah. One that I'm actually pretty interested in, and I haven't gotten to it yet on Netflix, is this Fear Street series. I don't know if
Oh
you saw
yeah.
those
So
advertised.
we started watching the first one, and then I don't know why we just stopped, but it seemed really interesting. It was the slasher-esque movie. Like it has like 3 years. Anyways, like we started
Hmm.
watching it, but we
Yeah.
stopped for some odd reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there just isn't enough there to like grab you or something like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like I was just gonna jump off of that thought. Just like you're right, there is just so much content out there that you can't have a false note, right? I mean, horror movie genre is an interesting genre because it can be pretty if you do like the basic stuff right. Like you have technically your sound right, your sound design is great. You have a somewhat of a good plot, and then you have good, well act like actors who know how to act a little bit, and you have some good effects. You can get most people be engaged because mostly horror movies are consumed by genre fanatics. So it's like it's not that difficult to make a mid-level good movie. But I think what's happening now is that if your horror movie needs to stand out, if it needs to really make some noise besides all the other jarring content out there, it has to have, like you were saying, something more to it. And I think that there's been a couple of horror movies this year that were pretty good. So I'm kind of on the slightly on the other side as compared to you, Pat. I think that horror has evolved pretty well. I would say that certain filmmakers, kind of like James Wan, right? We are going to talk about him as well, but like he kind of I don't know where he's at right now. I don't know if he's trying to reinvent himself or he's just trying to generate more franchises. People like him, I'm not sure about. But then there are other filmmakers like the guy who I'm completely forgetting his name right now. The guy who made Hereditary. He made like Midsummer. To me, he is avant-garde
Ari
horror.
Aster.
Ari Aster, yes, Ari Aster. He's doing a great job. The guy who made Saint Maud, he's doing a great job. I think there are people who are reinventing the genre. I think it has to be done in a way that is new and that is pushing some barriers. Otherwise, it can be pretty lost in the chaos. Well, no one has any other point after that, so that's great. Let's dive into *Malignant*. Um, that river ran dry.
Uh,
Go ahead, Pat.
those are great counterpoints. Sure.
um, so let's start with *Malignant*, right? For those of you who've never heard another episode of this podcast, the way we do it is we go into a movie. I give a very short synopsis in the movie. We talk a little bit about it, spoiler free. And then we go into the actual discussion, the spoiler spread discussion. So to get us started, Malignant is, like I mentioned earlier, a new movie by James Wan. Um, two and a half of us in this crowd of three have watched the movie. I say half because Meghna has watched half of the movie, but she has opinions. um, but a quick synopsis on the movie is that paralyzed by fear from shocking visuals, a woman's torment worsens as she discovers her waking dreams are terrifying realities. That gives you nothing about the movie. So I'll just kind of add a little bit to it. It's basically about a woman who is going through some traumatic events in her life around her pregnancy. And she starts losing people around her, and part of it is related to what she is seeing as in quote unquote visions as they are happening, and part of it is about this mysterious entity that is haunting her. And yeah, and so you get into it, and the movie sort of rolls out in a typical James Wan movie fashion until the end, where it becomes kind of Shyamalan-esque, where there's a plot twist or twist ending, which I think you can see coming to a certain extent, but the way they played it out is pretty interesting. We'll get into that in the spoiler discussion. But yeah, did I miss anything with the synopsis?
I think that was very well done. It was very carefully worded because it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without diving too much into the plot and revealing too much.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess to get us started, what do you guys think worked well versus not so much? Do you want to go, Pat?
Sure. Yeah. So I think this movie kind of had trouble figuring out what it wanted to be, or at least I kind of interpreted it that way. There were some lines in the movie that were just like stereotypical, like obvious lines that somebody would say. But even when the actor gave those lines, they gave them in like a very like, hey, I'm saying this because wouldn't it be funny if I said it or something like that. So there are a couple of points of that. One line was about I don't even know if I could say this, but I'll just go ahead and say it. That one of the detectives just threw out there, and it was at the very end of a scene, like, so now we believe the murderer is your imaginary friend.
Yeah.
And then dead cut, let's move on to the next scene. So
yeah,
I mean, and it was probably delivered with as much gusto as I just delivered that line also. So there were a few points where, but again, the horror genre, typically I feel like, or some movies in the horror genre are going to have some aspects of comedy as well, just to kind of spruce things up. You can't be scary all the time. So this one, though, it almost felt like it knew that it was almost like a B movie type thing going on. But again, I mean, I don't really know if that was the route that they were trying to go, or if they were trying to do something completely new and creative and go for that big box office. I'm not sure.
I think, I mean, to add to that, I think it is not your regular horror movie. And can we call it like a dark comedy? I don't know what they were going for, because I didn't watch the whole movie, so I joined at the other half. So yeah.
Well, and I think that like you can do a good campy horror movie. Well, there's plenty of examples out there that do that have done it well. But yeah, to I guess to Pat's point, right? I didn't quite understand what they were going for, because acting is quite caricaturish through the movie, and I know, Pat, you mentioned that maybe that's what they were going for, but then you had a question mark next after that,
Right.
which even I kind of would reply with a question mark. Yes, maybe. I don't know, because they were definitely fluctuating between the campy horror genre and like, oh, take me seriously, my life is a complete mess, and all these people who are important to me could die, blah blah blah. And so I think
Yeah, like it was Cabin in the Woods. Is that the one that's supposed to be like the super meta horror movie? Like it had components of that, I feel like, and like it went there sometimes, but then it would go back to kind of your more traditional horror movie. So that's what I just wasn't quite sure about.
Yeah, and I think what Cabin in the Woods, even though I didn't really love the movie, what it did really well was that it stuck to its guns, right? Like like Evil Dead genre, where it sticks to its guns and it really takes itself not so seriously. Um, I think with this one, so it's interesting because when James Wan started, he made the first Saw. Like I think he may have made the second one too. May, I'm not sure, but he Saw was made straight out of film school on a strapped up budget. It was a great movie. He kind of broke out into the scene with a bang. Then he created entire franchises out of really small budget horror movies like Insidious or Conjuring. So he is a very smart filmmaker. He knows what he's doing with horror. But I have a strange feeling that like what he could have been, which is a auteur like horror filmmaker, is not what he's going to become. Like he's kind of on this trajectory where it seems like he's more leaning towards these easy to make franchise movies. And Malignant just feels like another attempt at that to me. Um, the one thing that I thought that the movie did really well was its soundtrack. I really really liked that little theme music that they had, which popped up a couple of times. Like that was really good, but everything else was just very mediocre.
Yeah. So what do you think? Well, how do you feel about James Wan doing those superhero movies? Whether we would consider Furious 7 a superhero movie, but I do.
Well, yeah,
Furious 7
yeah,
and Aquaman
yeah. He's, I
and
mean,
the Aquaman sequel.
yeah. He's okay. So I thought that they were both. So Aquaman was better than Seven, Fast and Furious, however you say the name. That one, the seventh one. I thought Aquaman was a handled a very tough superhero concept pretty well. So yeah, that ways it was good. It was good world building, but it never was more than a like Rotten Tomatoes 70% or higher movie for me. It was a decent movie, not a good, not a great movie. With Seven, I think I'm pretty like jaded on Fast and Furious franchise at this point. Like I don't know what's gonna get me to turn a leaf on it and love that franchise again. I don't know. So I think what he did well with that movie, if I remember correctly, that was the movie where they had to send off Paul Walker, and I think he did that well. He managed the goodbye really
Yeah, it
well.
was well
Yeah, and so I mean, again, franchises, right? Like he probably is getting to more become that more studio friendly director than what I thought he would be at the very beginning. But maybe in the future he'll prove me wrong on that. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question on that one.
Yeah, I think so.
What do you? What?
I also didn't realize how young he is. Like he's only 44 years old.
All right, great. Feels good. What about like what if you guys were to our rating scale, is don't watch it, or watch it on a lazy day when you have nothing else to do, or you would recommend, like strongly recommend, or you would like evangelize people to go watch this movie. Where does this movie land for you guys?
For me, I would say it's worth a watch kind of on a lazy day.
Okay.
If you want to get into the kind of theme or kind of get into the atmosphere of it, you can watch it at night, lights off by
done.
yourself or sound up or something like that. It kept my attention for the most part. I did have to watch it over a few different days just because, baby
Hmm.
things that happened. But yeah, especially for the meme worthy or GIF worthy, even images that you may see on social media after the fact. I think that
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it's worth a viewing.
Mhm.
Yeah. It'll be.
Yeah, I don't think you should not watch the movie. Yeah, I think one should watch it on a lazy day. Yeah, I agree with that. But I wouldn't say that it's something that you like. For me, it's not something that I would ask people or suggest people to just go watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If someone tells me that they or asks me if they want to watch a horror movie, I don't think I would recommend this movie. If they tell me that they want to watch anything, something, I'd say there's like a lot of movies out there that are better than this one to watch. So, um, yeah, I think it falls towards the space of like, yeah, don't really care for it, so don't watch it. But um, yeah, I can see what you guys are saying to be true. Like even a late night thing where you want to watch a horror movie and there's not a lot of good ones out there, and you have access to a few, maybe you can watch this. But then even then, I'd be like, there's more.
Yeah, I would also say give it 30 minutes, and if you're not feeling it, like you don't have
Yeah.
to go back.
Yeah.
That's very true. I guess, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because like people might actually align with it differently as opposed to what I feel like about it. So yeah, you're right. It could be that. So I know we're about 30 minutes into this discussion, and we still have to get to spoiler. So for all you guys out there who have not watched the movie yet, do not listen to this part. Otherwise, you'll hear spoilers. um, but let's dive into it, right? Let's dive into the spoilers. I want to kind of really start with the elephant, or the backwards room. uh, well, let me start with this. What did you guys think about the prosthetics or the makeup on
Okay.
on that thing?
But I have something to say about it. I think the wig was really wrong chosen. I couldn't have my attention to anything else other than the wig because it was pretty badly chosen for some reason.
Oh, like
And it,
the hair, like
yeah,
of
the
her.
hair.
Oh wow,
Yeah, because
interesting.
it
I
was
didn't even
just
notice that.
yeah, it was just there, and I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Wait,
yeah.
which wig when like they showed the monster
Yeah,
or when they showed Gabriel?
when Gabriel comes and like the way the hair
Pops
is
out.
yeah, it pops
Yeah, I
out.
am very curious about like how they actually did that.
Oh
Like, was
yeah.
there a person behind that mask, or was it just like always like a doll prosthetic? Or I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys know anything about it.
Well, I don't know about it, but I mean, I'm curious about it too. But I would almost wager that it was
Mm,
mostly prosthetics.
mm,
Because if you notice, she's always got her eyes down, her
yeah.
eyelids down. So
Yeah.
I would imagine that it was like a dummy, a really good
Mm,
high fidelity
mm-hmm.
dummy.
Oh, 10 points on how the action was done, the action sequence with the
Yeah, it
woman.
was
I don't
very
know.
Kingsman like,
Yeah, it was
like
good.
that sequence in the police
Hmm.
Hmm.
office. But like, I mean, what is Seattle PD doing, dude? Like, like not one of them know how to aim. What the
Yeah.
hell?
And
Yeah.
why doesn't like she or they just like, they get into a total bloodbath, and I don't know why nobody thought of like, shooting the woman
Yeah, well,
and
they
or the,
tried. They
but
couldn't get to her.
yeah, but that's weird. In a
Yeah,
room full of police officers with guns and whatnot, I don't know why that happened, but
yeah,
I don't
So Gabriel was shot though earlier in the movie,
yeah,
right?
know. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I thought
By
so.
like in the Seattle Underground. Yeah, I thought Key or Kai shot him, and then he seemed injured, and
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
Madison seemed fine like the next
Yeah.
day. So I don't know if they have superhuman healing in addition to an unexplained ability to talk through electronics.
Which
Yeah.
But
okay,
Which
can we talk about that?
yeah,
Because
please.
where the hell did that come from? I don't understand it. Like, how the hell is Gabriel like connected to? Is he like Alexa or what is happening?
I
so
remember.
I
Go ahead.
So I went back and I watched the first 10 minutes again because that was another thing is the cold opening the first time around is god awful. It's worse. I would say it's one of the worst cold openings I've ever seen because it gives you nearly zero context and nothing is even ever really alluded to again in the beginning. Um,
Wait, the cold opening is
but
in
okay.
the asylum or whatever, like research
Yeah,
facility
in the
thing, right?
asylum, yeah,
Yeah,
the 1992 or whatever, and
yeah,
then
Mm-hmm,
they
yeah.
mm-hmm.
do, I yes, I don't know if it's technically a cold opening because they do some of the credits, but then they do the full
Yeah,
intro
I mean it's
credits.
kind of like that. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I went back and watched that. One the guy who ends up getting killed, the nurse or the doctor's assistant or whatever, he's the one who gets murdered later on in the movie. He mentions something about trying to electrocute Gabriel, but he's just absorbing the energy.
Yeah.
But it's like a throwaway line. There's action. It's in the middle of an action sequence. You have all this background noise. You can barely hear it, but absorbing the energy, is that something that human bodies can do? And then they can talk through cell phones? Or is that just
a tumor could do that?
Is that just a teratoma thing?
Yeah.
And how do radios and cell phones are interchangeable now, apparently?
Right.
I thought those were different frequencies and technology. So
yeah, like
who knows?
she's sitting in the interrogation room and like Gabriel wants to talk, so he'll call through, T-Mobile or whatever on the detective's line and like unknown calling. How the hell is that happening? Gabriel's behind her head. Like he's sitting right
how
there.
did that happen? Yeah, I thought that too. I thought maybe Gabriel has a small phone, like right in the middle of the hair. And this guy.
It's quite...
Well, in that opening scene though, he talks through a radio. But
he
turned.
Yeah.
So figure this. So he turns the radio on and just automatically starts talking. But when he calls a cell phone, somebody has to pick it up and answer it.
Yeah.
So is he just not as strong on a cell phone? He can't force somebody to answer the cell phone call?
Yeah.
Can he leave a voicemail?
Well, I just find it very interesting that Meghna watched it only half of the movie, but we have the same questions that she does. Like watching an hour more of the movie gave us no more information.
But when I started watching, I was fairly confident that maybe this girl has been experimented upon, and maybe it's some alien. She has some alien influence, and that's what I could gather, and I thought that made more sense. Maybe there was some kind of experiment that was done upon her, and something happened. So that explains how this Gabriel had to do with something with electricity and all that. So I don't know.
When a possible alien plot makes more sense than an actual medical condition, you have messed up.
Yeah,
whatever.
I was hoping for some more technologically advanced bad guy, if you will.
Yeah.
But
and like with his like tiny hands, he kind of looked like Flux, so
Oh, yes.
I couldn't even take him seriously. Like he was just like trying to reach. But the other thing that was interesting to me is like, okay, while watching the movie, I was thinking of kind of similar to Meghna. I was like, okay, what if he's heading towards like a superhero franchise, right? Like, what if Malignant or whatever that thing is makes her superhuman? And I kind of felt like they were going slightly deeper into that. Like the easy answer was that there was a evil twin, because they were foreshadowing the hell out of that, even in the beginning, or not in the beginning, when they go back to their mom and mom says like, "Oh no, they just told us that we usually keep siblings together when they're being adopted. Like, why would they just randomly say that to the mom?" And she would randomly remember that. But I thought that in general, the movie could have actually made something out of it had it like leaned heavy into either in the superhero side or some like anti-villain concept or like malignant series or whatever. I think that could have been interesting, and it would have been similar to like Split, right, from M. Night Shyamalan, which I felt like the movie was. You could have told me that the movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it is, because it seemed as weird and like kind of plot heavy and twist centric as a Shyamalan movie would. Sorry, I'm rambling, but yeah, those are some of the thoughts.
I also think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Meghna. No, you go.
I was thinking how they put in the devil angle to it, because I quite couldn't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, another thread that went nowhere. Yeah, right? Like pointlessly.
It's the devil.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, like you said though, Siraj, like Gabriel does make her like super strong and superhuman, because that scene where they kind of flip down the fire escape of somebody's apartment building.
Oh yeah.
Like and I guess he's going backwards while he does it.
Yes.
Kicking through brick walls in the Seattle Underground and kind of jumping and soaring through the air and everything. Like, I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
Gabriel is. I don't know how he gets his powers. Maybe he is part devil, and that's
Yeah.
really what we're supposed to believe. And um, just
Well,
not sure.
they also just like hinted upon them being kids of a rape, right? Like, again, it was just a thread that went nowhere. They just brought it up, and it was like a throwaway line, like you said at the very beginning, Pat. But I'm curious, right? Like, if you go back to the movie and the portions where we don't know that Gabrielle is just this thing attached to her back, um, you don't. I never even caught a glimpse of her on the back, right? Like when Gabriel is running from the detective and stuff, I never caught a glimpse of her face. Nothing. I may have to go back to it, which I'll never. But uh, but in the last 10 minutes, when you do know that he's attached to her, you only see her the whole time. Like
Yeah, they make it very obvious once you know who it is.
Yeah, and so I mean, I get it, but also at the same time, it's just like no, there were enough sequences in the earlier portions of the movie where they're running the guy or Gabriel is running forwards and the camera is behind them. So, anyways,
right.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the attic scenes? I thought those were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about myself. I'm a big fan of like home repair TV shows. I like to watch This Old House and kind of start Today's Homeowner, that type of thing. That was possibly the largest attic fan that I have ever seen installed of somebody's house in my entire life. I don't know if you guys even know what I'm talking about. Just like this giant, huge fan in the, I guess, like gable end of the house. I know that it's supposed to be like gloomy and scary because that's like a workshop and big fans are scary. And then it kind of adds to the ambiance. But then I actually did go back and I looked for some screenshots of what the house actually looks like from the outside. And there's not a single spot in that roof where a fan of that size would be blowing out any air whatsoever. So whoever was in the props department or the sets department, yes, I appreciate, fans are scary and gloomy, but I think we could have done a little bit better on the outside of the house.
Yeah, and I mean that whole attic, like nesting in the attic thing. I feel bad for the husband. I mean, I don't feel bad for the guy necessarily, but having your wife, assuming let's for a second imagine that the guy was a good guy, not a complete.
Well, he is a fan of the UFC, so I think that implies that he's a bad guy.
Yeah. That was his only like defining character, defining property. But but anyways, like if he was a good guy, I would have genuinely felt bad for him having his wife. Like, imagine in the middle of the night she goes up into the attic and she's like doing all this stuff. She's making her trench coat, she's making her shit, and then she's coming back downstairs and she's sleeping. And there's a whole other being inside of her head. What?
So I think though that none of this started until he hit her head.
He hit her. Yeah.
Right. So
you're right.
So yeah, he was already long gone and dead.
Yeah, you're right.
Also, I believe if you get your skull cracked open, you die.
Yeah.
Isn't that a thing? But for her, once again, because of these Gabriel superpowers, it just gave her. It exposed this being who needs like oxygen in order to take over the body. Like, wouldn't he be able to take over her body even if he was crammed inside of her skull?
Yeah, no, unexplained.
There was no, I mean, no spells were, nobody casted a spell on Gabriel, but it was just shoved inside the skull by a surgeon, and that quite worked for the lady.
I can't wait for movie spoofs to come out where like Gabriel is like peeking his head out. Hello.
Or like a Scary Movie 7 or whatever they're on now.
Yeah, I don't even know if they make them anymore. But yeah, one of those things. Because this movie is like full of that. Those kind of moments. So I guess we're at 45 minutes, and I wanted to kind of figure out our last wrapping thoughts here. Um, I want to talk a little bit about real quick. When when you're watching like a movie like *Malignant* or anything similar-ish to *Malignant*, um, what is like the best case and scenario? Like, are you looking for cheap thrills? Are you looking for a great plot twist, or are you looking for like great character arc or whatever? Or something like Get Out or Us, right, where there's just something that is very undercurrent and underneath the entire surface that is running. Like, what are you guys looking for when you're watching this kind of movie?
Yeah, I would say I don't even know how to define it. I am looking just to be entertained. I don't necessarily need all loose ends to be tied up.
Mm,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
yeah,
But if you're going for a big plot twist, we got to make sure that the plot twist at least makes sense
Mm.
or
yeah,
is somewhat plausible. I guess maybe that's what I'm looking for is plausibility or realisticness. I understand if like a devil or a demon is involved, things can get a little bit more supernatural. Aliens are involved. Yeah, obviously things are going to get really weird. But in this case, like this movie lived in our world, in
yeah,
our
Mm.
universe. They followed our rules. They followed everything along our way, except for here and there, kind of this superhuman ability that Gabriel had. So I guess, yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of what I was just disappointed in. And that's why I kind of didn't quite sit. It didn't quite find kind of what exactly it was because it did kind of bounce back and forth between those two different realities.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's well put.
Yeah. I
What,
agree.
what about you?
Um, as I said, I'm not a big fan of horror movies, so this particularly didn't feel very much like a horror movie to me, which is why I said that I felt that it was somewhat like dark comedy, maybe.
Mm,
So yeah, I think as we said that you gotta watch this movie when you are not in the mood to watch a horror movie per se, but you're just wanting to watch it on a lazy day and you don't have to like apply a lot of brainers to it. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I'd echo you guys, but also from my perspective, I'm often with horror movies now more than I did before. Like, I'm looking for a weird combination of cheap thrills with um a reason for being on the journey with you, right? Like,
Mm,
don't don't just assume because I'm there, I'm watching a horror movie, that if you give me cheap thrills, I'll be happy. Like, Paranormal Activity is done. We're out of that space now, and it's been overdone, and
mm,
there's a reason why Blair Witch Project 2 didn't work, and so I kind of um don't take me for granted as a viewer if you're showing me a horror movie. Just because I'm watching a horror movie doesn't mean that I'll give you an easy pass, right? So give me more fleshy content to sink my teeth into. That's what I would say. Um, and then also I would say that if you are like talking about how um, uh, chaotic and crazy Amazonian life is of all the people who work at Amazon in Seattle, then just like go deeper into it, because it felt like, no, it didn't actually overtly feel that, but I'm just saying that I wish that they had kind of made it like, oh, she works at Amazon and this is her life.
Wait, was there a reference to
No,
Amazon, or
no,
you're
there
just
was
throwing that
no.
out there?
It's just Seattle. It's just
Okay.
Seattle. That's why most of
Yeah.
the folks there work at Amazon.
Well,
So
you brought up Us when we went to the Seattle Underground, which also I had never heard of. I didn't know that was a thing.
I
I
didn't
definitely
know.
had to look that up while the movie was going on.
That would have been such a
Um,
cool thing to lean into. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to.
right, exactly. Yeah, make it something where like something happened where this guy is like from the underground or I don't know.
Oh my god, that
But
would
I
be
definitely
great.
thought it was going to be
mm,
something where, yes, he has been following this
yeah,
Madison woman throughout her entire life, and now he lives
yeah.
underground. And was I the only one who thought that
Mm,
the woman who gets abducted, who ends up being her mom, like, did you all
mm.
think that was Madison also, like the main character?
Oh.
Or did you know that was a different person?
Well, I predicted that it was her mom.
I didn't think of
Okay.
it.
So you could I also have a hard time telling characters apart on
Mhm.
TV, especially when they
Oh,
look
yeah,
very similar.
yeah.
But I
Well,
definitely thought that was our main character getting
Mhm.
abducted underground. And then I was
well,
like, wait, why? Yeah.
although that would have been pretty cool, like not twist, but like a I don't know a plot piece where somehow time is involved, right? I mean, like what if
Yeah.
she is the future Madison? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just jamming ideas, but yeah, that would have been cool. I also think that the leaning into underground Seattle, which I had zero knowledge about, would have been pretty cool too.
Or maybe some reference to the father, like how he came into the picture, because they didn't very much highlight upon that. Maybe some supernatural something to the father.
That would have been
Would have
interesting
made
too.
some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been
Yeah.
interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where
Definitely.
the evil, malignant
Yeah.
nature comes from. Yeah, that could have been cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry, go
So
ahead.
Claire. Oh, sorry. Last thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
No, no.
Claire brought up a. So again, I'm not a scientist. I'm throwing that out there, and I know we've heard that line around many times for the last 18 months or so. So for teratomas, did they say that this is like the splitting of a cell? So like they should be identical twins? Is that how you understood it, or is this something that can just happen from just like regular twins,
Yeah.
fraternal twins? Because if they are supposed to be identical twins, why is one male and
I
the
don't
other female?
I don't think that they said identical. Purely sticking to what they said in the movie, I don't know anything about anything biology remotely. But I think like what they were saying was that sometimes the embryo or two embryos split, and that's when you have the twins. Like when it
Yeah.
doesn't split entirely, then
Mhm.
you can have this situation where you have like a tumor-like being. Like who's actually like a parasite on you is how they refer to.
I think I don't know if this makes sense even, but I just heard this that when there are twins, it's always the case that one twin gets
Dominant.
weaker because the other one feeds off of their nutrition that they are supposed to receive. I thought maybe somewhere it's that, or
Yeah, I mean they
I could
did
be
say
wrong.
that. Like it's the parasitic side, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I don't again, to me it just didn't like really land in the grand scheme of the movie
Yeah.
because it didn't really
Yeah, more science. I think that's what we need.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Nolan should have made this movie.
It could
We
have
know he
been a
would have
good
done.
movie though. Could
Yeah.
have been a good. It could have been a good movie. Could have been a few tweaks here and there. It could have been a good one.
And just handled differently, I think it could have been a good movie.
Yeah.
Did you by the way hear about Nolan's deal with Universal?
No, what's going
on? So he's not going to be making a movie with Warner anymore. After Warner decided to go day and date with every movie 2021, and then like the back and forth that they had with Tenet release last year. Like this guy, I mean, yes, I'm a huge fan of him, but can you think about it? In the middle of pandemic, he released a movie that made $350 million. Like that's how crazy people are about him. So he basically said that I will dictate terms. I need a 100-day window. I can't do date release. You need to keep my movie in the theaters for 100 days. And then for 3 weeks before or after my movie releases, the studio cannot release any other movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I mean, typically Warner would have given that to him, but he doesn't want to work with Warner anymore. So he literally got onto an interview and he said, I was the greatest studio one morning the greatest studio produced my movie, then I woke up and it was on the shittiest service ever. So he was like meaning about like HBO Max having Tenet. But anyway, so he now will be making a movie for Universal, the studio that brings us Fast and Furious every 2 years, annoyingly so.
Ooh, maybe he'll throw his hat into the Fast
God,
and the Furious ring.
No. Unless the movie is about like going back in time and erasing the past, I'd watch that. Yeah, and Sir Michael Caine driving one of these Aston Martins. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining, Pat. I appreciate you joining Magna. However, you don't have an option anymore. You would be on most episodes with me. No, but thank you guys. I always appreciate your thoughts. Yeah. Any parting thoughts? Any goodbyes?
Thank you for having us here, and we would love to do the Green Knight soon.
Oh God, yeah. I'll be the only one who's like taking punches and like trying to defend the movie, but yeah.
Yeah, just thanks for the opportunity. I always appreciate talking about interesting movies.
Yeah, and we're gonna get back. I know we keep saying this, but I'm trying to this time around do a cadence of these things. So we'll be back soon, and if you like this, please like, share, subscribe wherever you're getting this. If you don't like it, leave a comment or an email, but still, like or share, subscribe. That'd be nice. Anyways, we'll be back here soon. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to us. Bye.